So good afternoon and welcome to this webinar, AI Tools, a little bit of a workshop that's going to take us through some of the hot emerging platforms and tools within marketing, using the power of the emerging technology that we're calling artificial intelligence or AI. Now, this is a huge topic, way too big for one webinar. So we're probably going to do some follow-up sessions and go through many of these emerging technologies with you at a later stage as well. But what we're going to focus on today are a range of different tools that enable us to really begin our journey. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through some of the features of the various tools that are probably, arguably, and you could debate this, and I'm sure we could have this conversation depending on which angle you're coming from, that potentially are the best in class for each of the things that we do as marketers, business owners, entrepreneurs, salespeople, business developers. Everybody looking to grow a business or an organization is now tapping into these tools to get best value. So what I've done is I've selected what are currently, in my view, some of the best platforms and tools for performing each of the functions that we do. And I'm going to go through some of these. There will be some areas that you will probably notice as we go through these that are potentially missing as concepts or as ideas. So things like chatbots, for example, I'm not including those. That's a whole separate conversation altogether. Service agents, for example, who can then operate automated very effectively to deliver customer service experience, for example. I'm not, again, including those. So I'm focusing today predominantly on the creation of stuff, assets, marketing assets, from content through music and video, visualizations, etc. And also then just dipping our toe in the water for things like agents in terms of automation. So we're going to keep this kind of quite high level, and I'm going to go through some of these and show you some of the features that each of these offer up to us. And again, I'm focusing predominantly on a marketing perspective because, as we know, a lot of these tools can be used in a multitude of different ways. But what I'm going to be doing is focusing really on, from a marketing perspective, where you can get best value here today. Now, the first thing I should say is it isn't just about setting up an account, opening up the tool or the platform, and just expecting magic to happen. There is a little bit of a science that goes into how you begin to operate with, how you begin to have conversations with these AIs. And we call that prompt engineering. And in fact, I'm going to call it prompts plural engineering, because what I've done is created an acronym. The acronym is prompts, so prompt plural, that allows us to start to really integrate what we need with the capability of the AIs that we're talking to. So for example, if you were opening up ChatGPT and you just begin to tell it what to do rather than get into a conversation, the outputs that it will be able to give you, not because it doesn't want to, but just because you haven't allowed it to, the outputs will be far less than if you get into a deep conversation where you're fully briefing, you're understanding what it needs, it understands what you want and the outputs and how they're going to be used. That way, it allows it to create a much more nuanced, a much more context-rich output for you. So let's look at this acronym, because it is really important that you start to get to understand that this is the best way to have conversations with your AIs. And if you do it this way, and it does really in general terms apply to all of the tools that we're going to cover here in this session. And this is important that you kind of begin here with the prompt engineering. So let's begin with the S of prompts, and then we'll kind of go back to the top and work our way through PROMPT. So the first thing I would suggest that you do is, whenever you start to have a conversation with something like ChatGPT, and I'll use the phrase ChatGPT in its generic sense. So not saying that, we're not talking about Anthropic. We're not talking necessarily about, well, Claude's Anthropic. Anthropic's Claude, or we're talking about Google's Gemini, or we're talking about Microsoft's Copilot, for example. I'm just going to use the phrase ChatGPT in the generic sense to cover all of those. So this applies to all of the kind of the more mainstream and sort of generic AI platforms. So the best way of starting, really, and the S is for start, is to ask your AI, how can I brief you best? And if you do that, what it'll do is it'll come back with 10 to 12 things that it wants to know from you. And this will start by putting the ball in the court of the AI and saying, okay, AI, I want to get some really good outputs. I want to collaborate with you. I want to co-create this thing, be it an asset, a piece of content, maybe a research report, whatever it happens to be. But if you ask, how can I brief you best? It gives the AI a chance to have its words, actually have its perspective listened to. And so if you then answer those 10 to 12 things, it then says, okay, great. Thanks, Neil. I can actually understand now what you want. Okay, let's begin. And then you can then begin with PROMPT. So the first P is for personas. So if you tell your AI the audience for the output, be that a particular customer persona, or maybe it's your line manager, maybe it's, I don't know, finance director, by knowing the persona, your AI then thinks, okay, now I know who we're doing this for. There's a little nuance there that enables me to really think in their shoes. I can kind of view it from their lens, and you'll find the output will be a lot stronger. The R is for research. So give it some sources of information, or tell it the types of research and background thinking and work that it needs to do, and the sources that you would be accepting of. I mean, when I do research for maybe a marketing study guide, or maybe to do a webinar, something like this, for example, I will tell it that I only want strong, peer-reviewed, maybe even academic resources. I don't want it looking at Wikipedia or mainstream media or social media. So I will actually put in exclusions there in the research that I'm kind of permitting it to do. That's important too. So it kind of puts the boundaries on what it can do and where it can look for the information to give you the output. O in prompts, the acronym is for outputs, the ultimate SMART goal for the output. So if you're looking to create some content with your AI, don't just ask it to create the content, ask it to create the content to get this kind of an output or an outcome. And of course, if it is that you're creating some content with your AI to do a social media post to promote a particular product that you're wanting to sell a certain number of in this particular sector, tell it those details, because those little moments, those little nuances will enable it to become far more focused than delivering something quite generic. So the ultimate SMART goal for the output that it gives you is really important for it to know. And you see what you're doing here? You're kind of building this conversation around really important stuff. So rather than just accepting, the first version it gives you, which will be quite vanilla flavored, you're going to get a really, really focused and really kind of pertinent output from the get-go. The M in the prompts engineering acronym is for models. So if you've got similar examples of outputs or background models, or maybe some research or data that you know would help, then load it in. The great thing now is that all of these mainstream general kind of AI tools are allowing us to add in PDFs or spreadsheets or images, and they will use those as part of this background briefing. So any models of things you've done before that you're very happy with, or that would be good examples, those are things to add in. The second P is preferences. Develop the conversation, get into a real conversation, ask it to go smarter, to go deeper, to kind of work a little bit harder to get to the best version of the output. I often find that probably by the third or fourth iteration, you're getting close to a really good output. Don't accept the first version. Now, we know that we're going to be then editing and then, sort of fine tuning the output before we want to publish it or release it to somebody else. So we know we're kind of part of the process. So it isn't going to produce something that's kind of ready to go or ready to publish instantly, but have the conversation to go better and better. Third or fourth version of each version of the output is generally going to be the best one. So keep going harder with it and ask it to do better. Ask it to work a little bit harder, and it will. It is like working with an assistant or a colleague, but it doesn't mind doing those extra hard yards. So push it hard. And if there's an output you don't like, be very clear. Don't be rude, but be kind and considerate and graceful in the conversation, but be very clear that, no, this is really not on the mark that I want. Can we go a bit more down this direction? And it will say, thank you for that rebriefing, and it'll go better the next time. The T is for tone. So the style or tone of voice. And if you have them, any brand guidelines is also very, very important because your writing, your outputs, your reports are going to potentially be very different to mine. So if you have some guidelines that you can put in there, be they brand guidelines or maybe AI guidelines, there's a thought. You probably need those too as you start to get into this more deeply. And also tell the AI who it's meant to be. So if you want a more, I guess, numeric or finance-based piece of work as an output, tell it that it's, a senior finance director or somebody who's very experienced in this particular topic or this particular subject. If you're looking for some thought leadership because you're creating content for a blog or something like that, tell it that it is actually meant to be the thought leader on the planet for this topic. And the quality of the output is going to be so much stronger. So this is exciting stuff to play with, and it really is about doing the hard work up front, because even before you start to decide which tool, we'll come on to those in just a moment, it is worth getting the kind of your act together really and getting all of these kind of assets and resources available so that when it comes to then making the choices and the decisions over the tools that you're going to use, you're doing the right thing. You're making it easy for the AI to give you the kind of outcome and output that you want. So anybody who says, oh, these things, they don't work, they don't really give me the quality I'm looking for, it's because you haven't got into the conversation. It's because of the briefing. You only get out the quality that you're willing to put in and the time and energy that you're willing to devote to get to a great outcome. So having set that as an expectation, let's get into some tools. Let's start looking at some of these platforms and tools. First one I would draw your attention to, if you need to do any research, is Perplexity. Perplexity is really one of my favorites for any planning I have to do with clients or for my own work that I'm doing. I'll always begin there because it is a really, really sound platform. It's a great tool that basically covers a whole range of different other, and it uses and draws from the experience and the knowledge and the depth of other platforms. So it uses a little bit of Anthropic's Claude, it uses a little bit of Google Gemini, it uses a little bit of ChatGPT, and it goes in and gets almost the best of the best, and it assimilates those things to come up with an answer to the question that you're looking for. So here's a question I put in recently: what proportion of marketers work in coffee shops on a daily basis? And it came back with, well, there's no specific data on the proportion of marketers who do this, but here's some interesting results. And it comes back with some written answers, which you can turn into a blog if that is your wish. But also it will search out videos and imagery that may well help you to build an infographic, for example, if you're looking to do a report or feed this into some kind of document based around some solid research. The thing I particularly like, and you can see this from the middle section there, and this is so different to using, say, a standard Google search to do your research, is that it will tell you the research sources that it's used to come up with this answer. And of course there, if you're briefing this thing properly, it will know that it's only going to be using the kinds of sources to gather its data and information that you would be accepting of. So you can double check there because it'll tell you how many sources it's used, and you can click on those links if you want to go deeper into that part of the conversation. So for me, research, great starting point is Perplexity. So I would certainly begin there. For content creation, I would still say that one of the best, if not the best, is ChatGPT. I love the way that the latest versions allow you to build a real consistency in the tone of voice, the style, the kind of brand essence, if you like, around a particular conversation. Over recent months, we've seen ChatGPT launch projects, and you can see those down in the left-hand column, that allow you to bundle together, much as you would in a folder filing system on your computer. You can bundle together topics or conversations or threads or work that you've done with ChatGPT into a specific project or kind of folder. If you have that in brackets, it's the same kind of thing. And what that enables you to do is to be able to brief that individual project or folder on how you want the outputs to be. And so you can kind of pre-brief individual projects in different ways. So you can have almost multiple versions of ChatGPT, the style, the tone, the kind of resources that you're creating and using with ChatGPT bundled into individual projects. So if you have different audiences or you have different people that you work with collaboratively using ChatGPT in your organization, or you have, like I do, different clients who have very, very different preferences or very different styles or tones of voice, then I can actually have different ChatGPTs in effect within my one account by subdividing into projects and allowing those projects to learn deeply about the nuances around that particular client or project itself. Really, really helpful if you're using this as I guess you could call it a power user. There's also the ability, you may well be aware of this and you may well have played with this too, as you can see in the top left-hand corner here, to create what are called My GPTs. If you click on that little button in the left-hand corner there, Explore GPTs, you'll see that people have done and taken actually the whole projects approach to the next level and actually created little kind of specialist GPTs that exist within the bigger ChatGPT that are specialists on particular topics. One of my favorites is the Data Analyst GPT, and you can find that in the Explore GPTs button there. And that enables you to use the data analysis feature and go deep and deep and deep into creating reports, creating graphics and visuals around the data that you put into that My GPT. And so if you're looking to do monthly reporting or gather deep insights around maybe your social media or around your website, Google Analytics exports, for example, the Data Analyst GPT in ChatGPT enables you to do that. I've also created a couple of my own just as little demos. So I've got one called X Monitor, which goes out every time I click the button and looks through X, formerly Twitter, for comments and trends that are related to the development of AI in marketing. So I've briefed it very specifically to only look for those kinds of posts, and it goes out and it does the job for me. So a really good little kind of almost mini assistant or mini agent, really specifically trained and briefed to do single tasks. Another one that I've got, you can see at top left-hand corner there, is something I'm calling Team Neil Wilkins. And this is one that is in development right now, and it enables me as part of that little kind of specialist GPT that's operating to do just one task. And that task is to operate the menu structure or act as a menu item without me having clickable menus on my website. So I can actually use this little Team Neil Wilkins to say, okay, search Neil Wilkins' website, neilwilkins.online, and find podcast episodes that are related to personalization and AI in marketing. So you can get really specific and it will find the top 3 episodes, for example, on that topic, doing away with the need for really complex menu structures on my website, lots of tagging and categorization. It knows my website better than I do, and it can then throw up the answers to those kinds of queries very, very simply and very, very quickly. Does it do much else? No, but that's the point. It's a specialist in what it does. So have a little play with those. Go to Explore GPTs. You can see that on the left-hand column there. Click on that and it'll give you the opportunity to start creating your own little My GPT. Gets really, really interesting. But content creation for me is just so, so strong with ChatGPT. So let's assume I've created some content, the baseline kind of version of maybe an article or a blog. So maybe it's thought leadership. So for me, that would be AI marketing and AI use of AI in marketing. So I've created my first draft, if you like. Maybe there's 2 or 3 iterations. I've gone back, I've asked it to reread it and improve it. So I've gone deeper into some of the research. So I've got my first version. What do I want to do then? Well, I would then say I would take it to a content editing AI. So not leaving it only to the sole domain of ChatGPT, I would then use Hemingway, and I would use the Hemingway AI to do some editing. The Hemingway app uses a whole range of different techniques to actually improve the readability. It improves the grammar. It improves the SEO functionality of the content that you've just created. And it is literally a copy and paste exercise. Super simple to use, and it will do automated fixes, or you can work collaboratively with it. And that is a really strong thing to be using if you want to make your content not sound like it was written by an AI. Of course, we've all seen websites now that, they just throw out content and you think, oh, hold on, that's ChatGPT. It's got those words, it's got those phrases. You can just tell the way the paragraphs are broken down. It was written by an AI. If you use Hemingway as a collaborative tool as you're editing your AI generated content, you can do away with all those worries, because something like Hemingway will make it sound like you, again, with some proper briefing, some proper prompt engineering, but also a lot of the things that it can do cleverly to be basically able to create content that is both, as I say, grammatically correct, but also really good for the search engines. So Hemingway would be my preferred content editor in terms of the written word. So we've done our research, we've done our planning, we've got some content that we've now edited, we're good to publish. But of course, the written word is just the written word. What would be my image creation preferred or go-to tool? Well, surprisingly, and this might surprise you, I'm going to be using X, formerly Twitter, because my favorite one right now for hyper-realistic or photorealistic imagery is Grok, which is AI within X, or formerly Twitter. This is the Grok platform, which at the latest version, which is Grok 3, Elon and his crew are basically claiming this is up there, if not ahead of ChatGPT. I'm not going to comment on that or judge. I'm not here to kind of tell you which ones are best or not best. I'm here to just show you the ones that are related to me as a marketer for you to kind of go away and experiment with. But right here, right now, and it really is right here, right now, because this often changes, I would say that the most effective creation tool for imagery for things like thumbnails or headers or cover images on a whole range of topics at a photorealistic level is Grok. So you find Grok on the left-hand menu there in your X or formerly Twitter account. So obviously you need to have a Twitter account to be able to do this, and it is there on the left-hand side. And it will create imagery, again, based around the quality of your prompt. I've just done a very simple little prompt here. As you can see, there's a consistency in the examples I'm showing you here. Create an image of a marketer working on a Mac in a busy coffee shop. And you can just see the quality and the choice and the flexibility that we've got there. I could change the gender. I could change the lighting. I could change from a Mac to a Dell or whatever. You can be very, very specific. That was a very general, simple prompt that I put in there, but you can see the kind of quality that you get out very, very quickly. If you like one of those 4 images and you think, oh, it's kind of there, but I'd like to see some more versions of it, when you click on those individual images, having done that very, very simple prompt, you can then generate further or regenerate further examples around the layout or the format of that chosen one that you like, to then maybe just fine tune it. So that's very much a first level glimpse there of kind of what you get. But you can see how simple it is. That simple little prompt in that prompt bar there from having clicked on one button, just Grok there. So it's very, very frictionless in terms of actually achieving it. Now, there are many, many other examples available, and we go through a lot of those other examples and different choices, and there are image editing pieces of AI software that will enable you to go very deep into the kind of the Canva-esque style of image creation. But I'm keeping it very high level, very quick and very simple here for you in this particular session. But if you want to go much deeper into that, join us on the Cambridge Marketing College's AI and Metaverse Marketing Day if you haven't been along to that one. So we've got a whole day course on this particular topic. And if you can find that at marketingcollege.com/events if you're interested, and we run that one once every month. And one that has now made its way into that day, and again, we go deep into it, is our preferred video creation AI tool, which is Sora. Now, Sora comes from the OpenAI family, which is obviously, as many of you will know, it is the home of ChatGPT. This is Sora. Sora has just recently been introduced into the UK. So for the UK audience here, you'll be very glad to know that we've now caught up with the US colleagues, and they've had it for a while, but we've now got it here in the UK too. Absolutely phenomenal quality. There are many others vying for top dog position here in video creation using AI. The likes of Kling AI have come through, Runway, another really, really popular one. But our current favorite here at the college would be Sora, S-O-R-A, part of the ChatGPT and OpenAI family. Just the quality from a very, very simple prompt. Here we go, female marketer working on a Mac in a busy coffee shop. Press play on that, and honestly, you feel like you are in the room. Very, very simple. And as you can see from the prompts at the bottom there, you can create video in varying formats. This one is obviously landscape, but if you want square, you want portrait because you want a quick little short, maybe B-roll style clip for your social media, you can do that very, very simply at the click of a button. You can also see the resolution. For most cases, these are low resolution, but you can go for super high resolution if you're interested. And the clip length as well, 5 to many seconds worth of clip. And you're probably going to want to be building this up into a range of different short clips that you might want to pull together into maybe a slightly longer reel, or maybe even longer into a feature-length movie. Who knows? The opportunities here are immense and very, very broad. So really, really exciting. Video creation, our preferred option there is Sora. So you've got words, you've got images, you've got video. I would be recommending, if you want a soundtrack or you want some kind of instrumental with or without vocals, play with Suno. Suno.com is my preferred audio backdrop kind of creation tool. This one is quite addictive. This is the kind of tool that you're going to be spending many late night, I think, going down deep bunny holes here with this particular tool. It is quite addictive. Once you get into this, you can create soundtracks or instrumental versions to back up your creation of the earlier kind of assets in a very, very simple way. Again, as you can see here, giving a description for your song. You can choose with or without vocals by clicking on instrumental. You can actually put the genre in as well. So if you want to be guided by Suno as to the type of information that it wants to brief itself on, you can kind of just be guided by the genre, and then you can go in and generate multiple versions. It's really, really powerful. It's incredible, really, that you will own the credits to this. You will own the IP of this if you have the paid for account. And this is a good kind of benchmark, really, that currently, if you go for a premium version of any of these tools, generally, if you read the copyright details that come with it, the terms and conditions that come with your subscription, you will find, and do double check this, but you will find that with most of them, and Suno is a really good case in point, that you own the commercial rights to the output. This is often a concern for marketers that having, created something a little bit special, actually it's the platform or the tool that actually owns the IP. Well, if you go on the free versions, generally that is the case, but go for a premium version, you might find you own it. So if you are a budding DJ or a budding instrumentalist or musician, and you want to be creating your next album, but you're not actually skilled enough to be able to do that, maybe Suno is your answer. And it's actually becoming quite an interesting concept because in itself, it's becoming a little bit of a social network. Some of these tracks that are being created in here have multiple thousands or tens of thousands of listeners. So it's becoming almost a little kind of, yeah, social network kind of music basis in its own right. But of course, you can export your assets very quickly and simply from that particular platform. If you are less into the music or the soundtrack or less into the kind of photorealism of video or imagery, but you just want some kind of visualization to go along with your content, this is something that I produced using Napkin. Napkin.ai is a really interesting visualization that can produce graphs, can produce pie charts, can produce visuals for you to back up your storytelling in a very simple way. And it will create probably about 50 to 60 different versions of potential output around a text-based prompt. So what I put in was the output from our earlier Perplexity search, the little piece of research that we did earlier in this conversation. I just popped that into Napkin and it came up with a visual that backed up that content. And I had a number of things to choose from. I had some graphs, I had some pie charts, but this was a particularly attractive one that would enable me to create very quickly some visualizations that could create a very simple but very effective infographic. Now, you might be thinking, well, I've got Canva for that. And of course, you have. There are many ways that you can cut these things, many ways that you can produce this. But do have a little play with Napkin. It's a relatively new player in the kind of the higher echelons of AI tools. It hasn't really featured with many organizations. A particularly high profile, but I'm finding it as a marketer very, very useful, very quick thing to have to hand that can very quickly, based on text, create a visualization of the story that I may be looking to tell. And for me, as a very visual person, that can be very powerful. So head over to the Napkin AI tool and see what you think over there. Now, if we've published our either visualization or our image or our video alongside our text, it's been heavily researched. So we've got an evidence-based pot of background and backup information should we be challenged, but we've got this great piece of content out there. What we might want to do is just double check and see what the likes of Google think of this particular piece or this particular blog or article. There is a very, very interesting, and I'm saying this with a smile on my face because it wows me every time I use it, tool that Google have created. If you know this one, you might be using this for a slightly different purpose, but because it's out of the Google family of tools, I am using this now for kind of generic SEO. It's called NotebookLM, language model LM, NotebookLM. And so if you search Google NotebookLM, you will come up with something that you can log into using your Google account. And if you've got Gmail or a YouTube channel, you will have a Google account, or if you're using Google Analytics, you'll have a Google account. So it's very quick to get in. And what you do is you put in your source. So it could be the link to the content that you've just published. So all the stuff that we've been doing so far, you've now got out there in public. So maybe you put a link to that, or you put in the overall homepage URL of your website, or maybe you put in a PDF of a document or a white paper that you've created. A whole range of different sources you can see that you can actually upload into NotebookLM. And then you press generate. You press the generate button, having loaded this stuff in, and you sit back and you wait. What you get on the other side of this is, if you haven't played with this, is going to blow your mind. And the reason I say that is because, and it's still only in beta, so you can't change the two avatars' voices, but you get two avatars who are talking almost like in a podcast style. They're talking about the things and the sources and the links and the PDFs that you've just uploaded. And they debate and they go deep and they have this conversation. And it is like two people actually discussing it. And you can then get a critique. And the reason I'm saying this is kind of SEO is because it's Google Gemini powered. So this is how Google Gemini is perceiving what you've loaded in. So if you've got a website, put the website URL, and this will be Google Gemini's take on and debating your website. And if you don't hear from this conversation of these two avatars talking what you think you're portraying to Google as an experience, then you've got work to do. But if you hear the little nuances, the little kind of details, and if they kind of get the tone of voice and they get what you want to be portraying to your customers and to Google, they get it first time, then you know you're on the right tracks with your SEO. It is a fascinating way to critique the content that you're putting out there. Really, really interesting. And so from that, what you might have are some ideas that you then want to take to your next team meeting. And so I would say then, as part of that team meeting, why not use, if you're using Zoom, why not use something like Fathom? This is a simple little bolt on. It's a widget that you can add in, and there are many, many other note takers, but I love Fathom. The reason I love Fathom is because you can go deep with the note-taking outputs. So as much of them do, Copilot will do this if you're using Teams, and there's a whole bunch of other options that you've got available to you. But for me, Fathom is really interesting because it will give you, obviously, the notes and the narrative, but it will also summarize, they call it key takeaways, but it will summarize, actually, its next steps is the thing underneath the key takeaways. It will summarize the actions that are coming out of that meeting. But interestingly, as you click on each action, it takes you to exactly where it is in the recording of that meeting. So you can go straight to where that little conversation that resulted in that action happened. And so you don't have to listen through the whole hour's meeting. You can go straight to the moment where that actually happened. Now, that's really efficient use of time. And the other thing is you can then start to work with Fathom to go deeper into either that action or that comment or that discussion, because you can use Fathom as an AI to have a discussion about, well, when we were talking about that particular outcome from NotebookLM based on that article or that thing that we've just published using all these AI tools, are there ways that we could improve this, Fathom? And of course, it then goes out and it comes back with recommendations for other things that you can do to just make your meetings and make your content just better and better and better. So it's kind of like a note taker on steroids. If you haven't used something like Fathom, which is very much an AI version of a note taker, there are others like Otter.ai and people like that. But it's just, for me, this Fathom one is providing just a little bit more context around the additional stuff that sits around a meeting. And it's really kind of thinking as a colleague and deciding that, hey, you could go deeper here, or hey, you could research this, or you could go back to the start and you can actually do it better next time by doing these actions. So it will extend the quality of that meeting on maybe a few steps beyond where you could have done if it was just humans involved. Fascinating stuff. So you've done all these things, and then you're starting to think, okay, it's great, Neil. You've introduced a load of things that maybe we're not doing, but you've just given me a whole bunch of additional stuff to do in my daily tasks. And I'm actually really busy right now. I'm actually kind of a little bit overloaded. So I'll come back to this stuff. Well, AI, of course, as tools in marketing, can help us to do stuff much more efficiently. And this is where we start to scratch the surface on the concept of agents. AI agents, if you're watching any of the marketing media, is the hot topic right now. And this is the automation of all of the things that we've been talking about. I've taken you kind of step by step through a range of different tools that will build you content, allow you to critique that content, allow you to take that content back into a meeting and discuss how you can improve it. But then what you'll probably want to do, if you find that you're onto a winner, is you'll want to automate some stuff. So in Steps, currently, my favorite tool that enables you to automate some of the steps that we've been talking about, and this is make.com. Now, make.com is enabled by you understanding the processes, and we call this process mapping, but the processes that you do as you create all this stuff. So I've gone step by step, building all these tools up to kind of almost ideally talk to each other. And that is what make.com can do. See the little plus button at the bottom of the screen here in the bottom right-hand corner next to my initials there? That enables you to add in each of these little steps, each of these steps in your process mapping from the initial research, maybe Perplexity, through actually logging some outputs from Perplexity into actually creating content, and then maybe through to publishing, and then maybe sending you a little notification on your phone which says, hey, next article published, Neil. There it is. Make will enable you to automate many of these steps. Now, it might be that right here, right now, you want to keep control over some stages of these steps, like sign off, for example, of a particular item before it goes to print. Or maybe I want to actually see the versions of the images. I don't want an AI to make the decision as to what image is best, because I don't want images with too many fingers or, disembodied heads or whatever it happens to be. And AI can throw up some really bizarre images, as we know. So maybe you want to be the editor before the thing gets published. So you can create, literally just click and drag, you can create points in these kinds of process maps using Make, where it will prompt you to come in and actually be part of the process. So this is it's a big investment of time, it's a big investment of thought, but if you're starting to process map the things that you do, you could, right here, right now, this is not a future thing, right here, right now, you could start to begin to put in an automation process for the things where you don't really add too much value. And you can create these little assistants or agents to be doing the hard yards and then briefing you when you're needing to step in, enabling you to free up time to do more valuable stuff. And that's the point of agents, really, from my perspective in marketing right now, is that they're going to infill the stuff that we shouldn't really be doing because it's taking up and wasting our time when it could be automated, enabling us to step in when the important points in the journey or in that process need to happen from a human perspective. So a really collaborative way of working. And that really, to me, is one of the great kind of game changers, if you like, in this whole series of AI tools. The other stuff's super clever. It does wow us. It is going to make our life better and more engaging and more exciting as a marketer. But this is where the game changing happens. If you can figure out the processes that you could automate where you don't add value and an AI could be doing it on your behalf, and then you step in when the important moments in that process happen, you're going to be ahead of the game. You're going to become super efficient, but you're also going to get the best return on your time. And that, of course, is a really important thing, as we're all very full in our day-to-day lives. And with that in mind, I've got the last little tool that I'd like you to be aware of and just keep a watch on. Now, this is not one that is in the public domain widely at the moment, but there is this concept of AGI, so general AI. And this is where there is this race to the first finish line, if you like, in the first wave of AI, which is to general AI. In other words, an AI tool or tools that are almost doing what make.com there is doing, but doing it kind of intuitively, doing it necessarily without our direct involvement, or it's kind of doing stuff almost as a real PA or as a real assistant. So if we were, as the examples show here, and you can go to Manus as a platform, and go and have a look at how it handles real world tasks through, again, these step-by-step approaches. Again, it's all about process planning, process mapping, but planning an overall trip where it will book a flight, it'll book restaurants, it'll book hotels without you having to be involved. And then you can go and then check out the itinerary, and it'll go back and change anything that you don't like. Where it does deep analysis of stocks and then produces, from a variety of sources, and produces a report for you to then critique, etc., etc., etc. Now, the clever thing and the difference about this is that it's kind of operating as you on your behalf. Even with, say, ChatGPT, you've got to be there doing the prompts. This will actually prompt itself. So from the initial prompt, it kind of knows what you want to do and it knows where you want to get to, but it will log in to various things, be it your online weekly shopping for your food groceries. It will actually log in, even if you're not logged in now. It knows that at this point in the week, on this time, actually it can see what, potentially in the future, it can see what you've got in your fridge, and it can automatically go and log into your favorite grocery store and actually begin to build the basket full of items it knows that you need. Now, you might decide, actually, I'm going to stop it from actually purchasing. I'm going to take it right the way through to basket, goes to checkout, but I want to double check that it's got the right things in there. But it'll automatically be doing that food planning for you. And there are many, many other examples that you can go there and play with. So this is a kind of almost a future tools, and we will be building as these things become mainstream, as we become able to really access these more AGI focused tools. We're going to do obviously a lot more coverage of these, and we'll do some more workshops and webinars around these topics. But I just wanted to almost bring us full circle back round to where this is going, because what we've got so far today are lots and lots of topics and lots of tools which give us a lot of really good things to play with on a day-to-day basis and really enabling us to get super efficient. But that's where it's going, where we're going to be taking or allowing the takeover from things like Manus, and other tools are going to be coming into that race as well, to be able to do some of this stuff on our behalf. And so really becoming our assistants or our agents, operating almost as us. And again, doing that stuff that can be a bit of a pain. We don't necessarily want to be doing it, freeing us up to do the high value stuff. So not taking over our lives, not replacing us, as a lot of people fear, but working in collaboration. And I really, really firmly believe that those of us who can really kind of embrace this and figure this out early, again through process mapping early in the game, will be the ones who get the best results here. So it's exciting times. It is driven by prompt engineering. That is still the thing that I would encourage you to really kind of explore and experiment with. But these are just some of the tools that I'm finding as a marketer are the current ones that are winning the game. But if you ask me the same question tomorrow, it could be a very different answer. So this is constantly and consistently moving and changing. So keep in touch with us at the college. You can work with me. If we're not connected on LinkedIn or X, you can find me at Neil Wilkins X if we're not already connected. And yeah, kind of, I'll keep sharing all the stuff that I see in my travels. And as I say, the college's monthly course, day course, you can find at marketingcollege.com/events. It's called AI and Metaverse Marketing. And it's a day that we do every single month. And we update it, as you can imagine, every single time we run it, to enable us to try and keep a grasp on how all of these AI tools are progressing and evolving over time. So hopefully, if we haven't already seen you on that course, we'll see you there very soon. But good luck with your playing with AI tools and prompt engineering. I wish you every success, and let's keep connected and enjoy this journey together. Have a great rest of your day, and good luck with your tools.